Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for all of your purchase and pricing questions. Reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below for all of your pricing queries about this or any of our watches. Today we are discussing a model launched in 2016, spectacular, resplendent, complex, in a case of rose gold and ceramic. This is the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch, gray side of the moon meteorite with Sedna gold. A big watch with a big name, but it lives up to it. So the watch is 44.25 millimeters in diameter in scratch-resistant gray ceramic. It measures in thickness 16.5 millimeters and from lug tip to lug tip 50 millimeters with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now the original gray side of the moon came out in 2014. This variant with meteorite dial and Sedna gold bezel came out in 2016, and it's a much more sophisticated aesthetic. It's also a more expensive watch that took the line up market. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see it's a big watch, but it wears fine because it's only 50 millimeters lug to lug. That's definitely more compact than average for a watch that's slightly over 44 millimeters in diameter. So I would wear this watch on a wrist of my size or larger. As you can see, the further I get away from the camera, the better it appears to fit, because in proportion to my body, which is fairly large, the watch isn't huge. I just have a skinny wrist. So if your wrist is my size, rest assured this is going to fit well, but it is thick. And you can see the cantilever of the bezel. It slopes outward and overhangs, which could cause shirt cuffs to get caught on it. Now, the strap is a fascinating medium round scale alligator cut, which we rarely see. And so we've got that along with a gray color, a lightly contrasting stitch. We've got a rubber gusset sewn in to avoid gouging the leather. And then on the bottom, you can see we've got the gusset again and black calfskin. We have here a titanium and ceramic clasp. The exterior is polished and satin finished ceramic. So when this is on your wrist and you're moving your hand across your desk all day long, all that desk diving will be absorbed by the scratch resistant ceramic and it will remain unmarred. This is where a lot of companies cut costs and give you a PVD coated metal buckle that's the same color as the case. The exterior parts here are ceramic. You don't get to the metal until you're into the interior, and then these parts are all protected from scratches and scuffs when the clasp is closed. Twin trigger release, so you have to press them both for this to open. It will not pop open inadvertently. And then you can see how we have these two little tabs, and you put the strap in, you fix it on these two pins, you tuck it into the tabs, and then all your excess length is fixed underneath the strap. So there's no need for strap minder loops externally and no excess length visible. It's a very clear look, very clean. Taking a look at the case, lyre-style lugs. We've known them on Seamasters and Speedmasters since the early 60s, basically meaning that we have an inward twisting bevel and an outward twisting bevel, with the outward bevel polished and expanding over the lugs and thinning out at the mid-case. We have a long satin sweep to the case band, and you can see the underside of the Sedna red gold bezel also satinated. We have polishing on the crown, polishing on the pushers. Impressively, Omega finishes its ceramic the same way it finishes its metal cases, achieving the same degree of sharpness between surfaces, as well as polish and brushed satination. Deeply impressive, given the challenge of finishing something that's so incredibly hard, second only to the sapphire on the watch. Taking a quick look at the bezel, you can see it is a satin finished red gold. This is what Omega calls Sedna gold. So it's got a high percentage of copper to make it very red, and then a high percentage of other materials like palladium to prevent it from fading to rose or fading to pink gold over time. It's roughly the equivalent of Rolex's Everrose or Panerai's Oro Rosso. Now the top with the tachymeter scale, this is actually ceramic. So this is very scratch resistant, this insert on top. And then we have a domed, almost bubble-like sapphire designed to recall a vintage Speedmaster. So too is the double register layout of the dial. Although if you look closely, you can see it's a triple register chrono. You've got chrono seconds, and then you have coaxial overlaid chrono hours and minutes, keeping the dial balanced, symmetrical, and vintage inspired. On the dial, we have meteorite iron, and you can see the Widmanstätten patterns. So it's been oxidized and then preserved so it won't oxidize anymore. Enough to create these crystalline patterns, but not enough that it'll turn rust red. And so no two of these will ever be exactly alike because the patterns cannot be duplicated perfectly. We have two little dished registers that actually sit on top of the dial. You can see they've been faceted and satinated. And then we have hands and indices that have also been satinated for a nice clean matte glow as polished to a bright polished shine. A bright polished shine would gleam and pop, whereas this is more of a soft warm burn. Taking a quick look, you can see we have a feature that allows me to set the hour hand independently and even drive the date forward or backwards depending on which direction I'm flying across the international date line. Note that I haven't stopped the watch and I haven't stopped the chronograph, but if I pull it out again to the next stop, now I activate hacking seconds. Now I can set the watch to a reference time. You can also see that there's a vertical clutch for this chronograph, so it always starts without any jump. A vertical clutch is seamless with no play. A vertical clutch can also be run continuously, if you so wish, without any additional wear and tear on the watch. The feel of the engagement is super crisp because this watch uses a column wheel function selector, which you can see through a skeletonization of the bridge on the reverse side. That's generally what you want on a high-grade chronograph. You want a column wheel for the feel and for the traditional value. Now, the watch does have a 50-meter water resistance rating. Still, because it is a push-down crown rather than a screw-down, I recommend that you not swim with it. Let's take a quick look at the loom. There is no shortage. My favorite feature is the loomed Omega insert on the crown itself. Note that the chrono seconds hand is loomed so you can see it in the dark. Flip it all over. Caliber 9300, a COSC chronometer adjusted in 5 positions, 2 barrels in series, delivering 2 advantages. 1, a long-ish 60-hour power reserve. 2, because the mainsprings are phased so that their torque curves don't overlap perfectly, you have a very flat torque plateau from maximum wind to minimum wind, so the watch doesn't surge when fully wound and it doesn't start running down and losing time after, say, 18, 24, 36 hours. It's braced well against shock with a broad rotor bearing that sits on ceramic ball bearings, hybrid ceramic, steel race ceramic balls, and then a full balance bridge are anchored on both sides, a free sprung balance further preventing the watch from being damaged or its timing altered via shock. And then we have an anti-magnetic hairspring, balance staff, and escapements. This watch is highly anti-magnetic. We have the tri-level coaxial system, which is a double direct and indirect impulse system. It has both a direct and an indirect, that is direct and also lever-based impulse of the balance. What's important is that both types of impulse are tangential friction as opposed to the sliding friction found on a conventional Swiss lever. British watchmaking great George Daniels designed this system first in 1974 and spent the better part of 2.5 decades getting a brand to adopt it and industrialize it. Only Omega dared to do so. Today, it realizes all of Daniels' original ambitions, including better chronometry, improved power reserve, and reduced maintenance requirements. And of course, the watch pivots on 54 jewels as it is a complex chronograph. You'll also appreciate the decoration, which includes both polished and blackened screws, plus this arabesque Côte de Genève across the rotor and all of the bridges. And it beats away at a very quirky 3.5 hertz beat rate. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I'm still T. Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.